Hi, I'm Tristan Thoma from AlphaPoint, and we're here at Bitcoin Amsterdam and have some very special guests here. If each of you want to introduce yourselves.
Steve Tangoa, advisor to the President of Central African Republic.
Nigel Farage, commodity trader, politician, now broadcaster.
Hector Celarie, Deputy Ambassador of El Salvador to the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Beautiful. It's an honor having you guys here. Just a couple quick questions. Steve, if you can give some insight of what inspired Central African Republic to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender?
We are trying to improve other countries to come with us and to grow.
So like to improve the financial infrastructure in the
Exactly.
country. And Hector, from El Salvador's side, what inspired El Salvador to adopt Bitcoin as national currency?
Well, under the leadership of President Nigel Farage, it inspired us the fact that there was 70% of the population outside of the banking system, of the financial system. So we wanted to include them. And the second topic that inspired us was the fact that 50% of our GDP it comes from remittances from our communities abroad. So with the creation of with the adoption of Bitcoin and the adoption of Chivo wallet, these communities living abroad, they send their money to this new means of this new mean. That's the word.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me fascinating to see these decisions that have been made. And it's quite interesting. I mean, one of the criticisms of Bitcoin is that it's very volatile.
Yeah.
Now, we've lived through a year where the dollar is very, very strong. The yen's the weakest it's been for decades. The pound's the weakest it's been for decades. But how do you cope with a population when you've signed on to Bitcoin and you've seen a sharp fall in its value relative around the rest of the world? Has that not led to people saying, well, what are you guys doing?
Well, the proof of that is that our population is still believing in Bitcoin, is still using Chivo wallet as the way to pay. And one of the reasons is that one reason that we see is that we still hold the Bitcoins. So we're still working with Bitcoins and we haven't sold them. It has been stated by our president at his last article in Bitcoin magazine. He explained that. He says the value, it might be volatile, but we still hold the Bitcoin, so we still trading with it.
It's rather like it's still there in El Salvador,
Exactly.
and even if it's worth a bit less across the border, it's still within. And the other thing that worries me about this is technology,
Yes.
because the biggest barrier, I think, to mass adoption are people who are not particularly familiar with the internet, let alone the concept of digital wallets. How do you go about that education?
We are trying to educate them by some radiophonics program, television one, and when the mobile phone arrive in our countries, we don't need education for that. The population try and after its success. So we are not agree this question of education and so on.
I can speak also on behalf of in El Salvador. So AlphaPoint powers the Chivo wallet, which is the national Bitcoin wallet. So we've had a lot of experience and a lot of learnings, very particularly on how to make it very intuitive for people, right? A lot of people have used digital payments. Most of them have never used digital payments. So, very simple interface, send, receive, integration with ATMs, banks, credit cards, the things that they already know, and then allowing kind of as the core of that, as a new type of core, the digital wallet. And so if everyday person can use a credit card just as easily as Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. We see every day, for example, the primary supermarkets in El Salvador have Bitcoin payments. You know, people pay their groceries. I pay
So
my rent.
they're learning, adopting,
Yeah, we
getting
should
familiar.
practice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
You can
yeah.
see it also in Bitcoin Beach, in every single area of El Salvador, even if it's a city or a rural area, everyone is using it. So it's,
That's very, very.
plus, the government has established some policies to bring more technology to the new generations for the future, because it's a long-term.
But for the older generation, it's a challenge.
No, it's still, because the Chivo wallet is really easy to use.
Okay.
It's not something that is so difficult, right?
We've also, Chivo actually made physical places, because I mean, a lot of people can't figure out, you know, Facebook, no less Chivo, or, you know, any AlphaPoint crypto technology. So we have hundreds of physical locations and trained staff and all the tools for them to make it super easy. Here's how you send, here's how you receive, the difference between what is Bitcoin, what is dollars, and how it works. Absolutely. I mean, you need in person. Sometimes you can't replicate the touch, you know, the human touch.
So, please, let me.
Yeah.
I want to give you a precision, but in French.
Yes, of course, of course, of course, of course.
Quand le téléphone mobile allait servir de traduction, et elle utilisait son M-Pesa.
Okay, so what I wanted to explain is that talking education,
Yeah.
which is a super important point.
Yeah.
Actually, in Africa, they've been the so-called leapfrog. They've been leapfrogging technology. So they directly adopted mobile technology. And so basically, when the idea of Bitcoin jumped in, let's say, that was something obvious for the population. So that comes, let's say, naturally. For them, mobile payment has been something much more present. That's what we are used to seeing in our country. So it was mentioning another country with Kenya.
Yep.
It was like going to a store to try to pay with M-Pesa, which is the technology that we have in Kenya. And he explained that it was in a store where the lady was not able to talk in English, which is quite common in Kenya. So they didn't have to communicate with one another. Things were instantly, because there is like this natural way of behaving with mobile payments. And Steve really wanted to insist on this point, because they are starting with some sort of advantage, if you may say, for Bitcoin adoption.
A head start. Yeah, I get it. I understand it. Yeah, well, very interesting. I mean, you know, how many more countries do you think in Central Southern America are going to go? I mean, given inflation rates, look at Argentina, do you think more countries are going to follow?
The question is when.
Aha!
That's the answer.
It's a good answer.
So we're actually speaking with and looking to speak with more countries that are interested in this, right? Because our technology is quite agnostic to if it's Bitcoin or dollars or pounds or peso or even a different cryptocurrency, or, as you know, some of the panels had mentioned, CBDCs that are upcoming. And so our goal as AlphaPoint is to provide the infrastructure to make these payments seamless, so seamless that you don't need to speak the language. And so we're very much looking forward to seeing that happen.
Very good. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, very nice.